What's up, guys? Thanks for watching the podcast. I truly appreciate it. I would really appreciate a like and a subscribe from you. That helps the YouTube channel grow. And I wanted to drop in and remind you one more thing. If you have any friends, family, or anyone you know looking to buy, sell, or invest in real estate, please have them call me. Get in touch with me via email at blake@blakebaker.net or on Instagram at blakebakerrealestate. Enjoy the episode. Welcome to the Under Contract podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Under Contract podcast. This is episode number 20, dude. Thank you for being my 20th guest.
Absolutely, man. Glad to be here.
Why don't you just introduce yourself and tell everybody who you are, what you do, etc.
Yep. So my name's Ian Smith. Blake and I go back quite a few years. We grew up kind of going to school together when we went, not to be a bad example here, but, we do what we do, and we've both become pretty successful in the industries we're in. But for me, so I am in the storm restoration industry, essentially. So what I used to do was I was on the contractor side of things, was in roofing, got my feet wet in that, worked some hurricanes, got some really good experience in doing those things. It's a pretty wild, like the wild, wild west over there,
In Louisiana?
Yeah, it was intense. Hurricane Laura and Delta are the two that I was a part of over there, and it was a different world, man. Different.
How long did you just like drive out there and get a hotel and stay out there for quite a while?
Yeah. So essentially what we did, the company I was with, we ended up with a house in Lake Charles. Somehow this place made it through Hurricane Laura, which was a massive Cat 5. I got out there sometime in August or the beginning of September, I want to say. And then that was like a week before Hurricane Delta was coming in.
And so it was back to back. Man, why do I not remember that? When was that?
3 years ago at this point.
Dang.
Something like that.
Yeah, I have no recollection of that. That's kind of concerning.
You're not wrong. So
I remember that was the one that was like supposed to hit us, but then it just veered right at the last second.
And thank God. Yeah. I mean, I don't wish a Cat 5 even though that's what does pay my bills, but at the same time, I don't wish that upon anybody.
Me neither. Not in Galveston County.
To go from blowing up the dead center of Lake Charles, and this storm was strong enough that by the time it got out, I'm pretty sure it got out like to the Carolinas, it was still causing damage.
Yeah. Holy shit.
Bad. So I got out there, did that. Essentially we had a house there in Lake Charles, and then ended up with an apartment over in like Lafayette, Broussard area. Because when Delta came in, it did more damage further east. So a lot of the guys went out there. And we were like kind of in a rough part of town in Lake Charles.
Yeah.
Collectively, I mean, I was out there back and forth for 7-8 months. And I heard quite a bit I heard more drive-bys and like close ones. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was a wild experience. But I've met a lot of good people. A guy that I'm really good friends with still. He's a like senior rep for Parish Brewing. So Matt and I were good buddies, and it literally was just from me talking to a guy, and Matt was at the time selling his house. This was his neighbor. And he's like, "Hey man, I've got this little thing. I'm trying to sell my house. It's a little repair, And I was like, "Yeah, I'm right here." I went up there and looked at it and was able to knock it out for him. And now he's a good friend of mine. So like, it's a wild kind of how this thing works. I'm sure similar for you,
Dude, you never know how you're going to meet people.
Never know.
Or you never know how you're going to get deals, meet people. That's why I try to just get out. Even if I have nothing to do that day,
yeah,
I'm out, dude. I'm in the truck driving around, going and trying to find like property. Like I'm always looking for properties to buy too.
Right.
So I actually came across a deal 3 weeks ago, a commercial deal, because I was looking at a property and that property didn't work for me, but the agent was like, "Hey, this property next door is off the market, but he's open to selling it. This is the same guy that owns this one."
Yeah.
I was like, "Really?" Dude, 3 weeks later, we closed on it. So had I never been out there just looking at property, I would have never came across that.
Right.
So that's why I'm a big advocate of go out into the marketplace every day, no matter what.
Networking, man. And now that I look back, you know, I've always been this way. I mean, down to when I was a kid, like I was just always, and yes, I was naturally given the gift of gab and the ability to talk and never meeting a stranger. And those are some traits that I hold dear and close to my heart, because that's allowed me to become successful in things that I've done. And it's allowed me to meet some really, really, really good people too.
Absolutely.
So yeah, started out over there, did that, got dabbled in some like full restorations, so like fire losses, water losses, things like that, commercial, residential, all of it. And then I just got to a point where I was getting frustrated in watching not only myself as being on the contractor side, but watching these policyholders, just the general public, just kind of get bent over by their insured, like their insurance company.
Yeah.
And some of that stuff, I just didn't have the tools in my bag to help these people combat it. You know what I mean? And I didn't know all of the ins and outs and what they could do to pursue further and get what's rightfully theirs. You know what I mean? That's why we pay premiums. So it started opening my eyes in Louisiana when people's roofs, and not only the roofs, obviously, because it was such a bad hurricane, but just imagine, all the roofs in this neighborhood just destroyed, right? And then them have to argue with their insurance company. Like for what? You know what I mean? I don't know why they would have to argue that. And there's really no reason why you should have to do that when you're paying your stuff on time. You're a good, loyal customer. You know what I mean? Like if I'm coming to you and you're doing whatever kind of service and I'm a loyal customer, and then all of a sudden you just like,
dude, and you're
paying
it every month,
everything on time.
And then you go to use it and
some of these people would have been with certain insurance companies for 20 and 30 years and maybe have made one or two claims, all legitimate. You know what I mean? Like I'm not running with people that are out there just like, oh, hey, can we do that? And I'm like, no.
They're up there hitting it with a hammer.
I'm like, no, back up. You know what I mean? Yeah. I'm not that guy.
Dude, there was a TikTok I saw. It was a TikTok or Facebook, something, but I think it was a State Farm adjuster, and he was up on this roof with this roofer, and the shingle was literally like pulling right up, like it was wind damage. Mm-hmm. And he was like, like we're not going to cover this for whatever reason. And he was like, okay, like it lifts right up. And then the adjuster was like, well, don't like, what was he trying to say? He was like saying, don't pull it up because you're going to bend it and break it. And he's like, okay, well, you show me the correct way to do this.
I've seen that.
If you're not going to cover it, you show me the correct way to do that. And he's like, well, I'm a professional on the policy, not the roof.
Right.
And it's like, bro.
So then why are you suggesting to me or this homeowner how these repairs should be done? That's a big battle in the industry right now.
And that roof looked old too. So I'm sure like, a brand new roof with damage, like it may be repairable, but a 20-year-old roof that gets held on or a hurricane windstorm, like I feel like they should cover that because they have to take into account the age of the roof.
Yeah.
Because a new roof is going to hold up a lot better than an old roof.
Fact. Yeah. So repairability is it's always going to be a factor. You know what I mean? So like you said, newer, it's going to have, it's more pliable. It's got a lot of life left in it. All the oils and all the components that are there, they're still there. They're not weathered. They're not aged. They're solid. So it's a lot easier to do repairs on something that's only a handful of years old versus something once you get into like 15 years and stuff, like, man, it's a sketchy situation.
Yeah.
So yeah, I did that. And then now, like I said, tying back to what I was getting into is I just got really fed up with seeing people, run through those situations and get handled that way. And so it was not just affecting me, but it was affecting the people that I'm trying to help. And I truly have a servant heart, which is why I'm in the industry. And this stuff feeds my desire and my drive for all that. So I wanted to stay in the industry, and I wanted to find a better way where I could effectively help more people. Mm-hmm. So now what I do is I work for a law firm in the Woodlands, the Voss Law Firm. So what we do is we help people, and we specialize in those denied, slow paid, and underpaid claims. So in the event, it doesn't matter if it's residential, commercial, industrial, municipality, government building, it doesn't matter. If there's a situation and you have a claim and it's a legitimate claim and it's being denied and you don't feel like that's right and you need another second look at it, or we're kind of like sometimes the last swing that you can kind of take at what you got. So if you've been denied or it's slow paid, underpaid, that's where you bring us in, right? We review your file, your claim, whatever's going on. And then the attorneys take it upon them, say, okay, hey, you know, this is one that we'll take on, or no, because of this, this, and this. But I always get an answer from them of why the yes or no. That way I can go back to that client and say such and such and such and such, and this is what's going on.
So you're like the insurance adjuster's nemesis.
Essentially, I mean,
you're the one that goes out to the field and assesses the situation, or
no? So I will, because I have, you know, professional experience in the industry still in my background. So I will go out from time to time, and you know, if we need better pictures or we need, you know, a different set of eyes on something, because you know, we get referrals from, you know, contractors, public adjusters, so roofing companies, restoration companies, public adjusters, and then, you know, obviously we get call-ins and questions on the internet and from just general public coming in. But yeah, essentially what we do is we then take that and then they take it however far they need to. The ideal way is that it's preferred that, you know, we can settle it before it goes to litigation, but it doesn't always end up that way, right? So these attorneys that I'm working with, I mean, they're all phenomenal guys. You know what I mean? They've been doing great things for policyholders across the nation for many, many years. And that's why I got on board with them. I've heard so many horror stories from some of the bigger names that do what we do in the industry that are basically, you know, they bring a claim in, and then next thing you know, the claim gets settled, and that contractor that was involved, they just kind of get shoved out. And I'm like, that happens and I'm walking out. Like that's not the kind of person, I don't build that kind of rapport with people.
That's what you were telling me on the phone yesterday, right? Yeah. Right. For everybody we talked on the phone yesterday for a good 30 minutes. I was like, dude, we just did a 30-minute podcast. You got to come be on the show.
So here we are the next day, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, and that's essentially where I want to be the change, you know, for as many people as I can. I can't fix everything, but I can damn sure try, you know what I mean? And the guy that I met with today, with True Works Roofing, he's over the commercial division, you know what I mean? And we hit it off really well. We met up at the International Roofing Convention up in Dallas, a couple of weeks ago, had a good conversation there. And, you know, essentially we're going to be trying to help them help their clients.
Yeah.
He's been in the commercial side for 6-7 years and didn't really fully understand what all those options were to help their clients in the event where they're filing a claim, right? So
I feel like commercial guys could probably use your services. I don't want to say much more than residential, but when you're dealing with a 1,700 square foot house, like Village Grove or something like that, how much is a roof for like a house that size, like 10, 15,000?
Yeah. I mean, it really just
kind of depends on what they choose.
On the low end in there, let's go 15 or so.
Okay. So at what point, say if the insurance company isn't trying to like pay them their claim, there's got to be a point of diminishing returns with taking them to court, right? Because then you have fees, court, like lawyers' fees and everything. So it's like you got to make a decision on, do we want to just pay for the damn roof, or do we want to take this further legally?
Well, and that's the thing, is that, you know, the insurance world is it's just a slippery slope on for a lot of reasons. But insurance companies are for-profit companies, right? That's what they are. So they take our premiums and they're invested. So the longer they can hold on to that money, the more they can get on their return. So there's times where it's almost just like a game of toss. Like they're like, oh, this ain't no big deal. And they'll just get tired of throwing it. And then they'll go, oh, okay, here's the ball back.
Yeah.
And it's like 4 months later, like the amount of money that was spent, I guess it makes more sense for them. You know, I guess they're getting a better return is the only thing I can think. But ultimately, you're shitting on your policyholders.
They want to hold that money and use the money while they can.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's what they do. That's the name of the game for them. And it's up to people like us, what we do, to try to help those that if you don't know, you simply don't know, right? No. But what I like to do is any person I talk to, whether I was in the residential side on the roofing stuff or whatever it may be, the little bits of information that I try to grab, and I mean, I even do it on my socials and stuff, and I'm usually try to be quick, informative. I use my personality, kind of funny, quirky, whatever it is, to just grab a little bit of attention. And I'm not out there doing like 20-minute, scripts of like, this is how you, no one watches. Listen to that, right?
Dude, I tried that. I used to do like 10, 15-minute long YouTube videos explaining everything.
Yeah.
Oh, here's this 5 steps to buy a house. And dude, no one watches.
Nobody wants to watch that. It's got to quit. Yeah, right. So that's what I do. I always make it a goal to leave people that I'm talking to with some, like at least 2 or 3 points of something that was educational and beneficial for them. It may not directly apply to them at that moment, but at some point, if they're ever in that situation where they have to file a property claim or they know somebody that does, all I can do is hope that they remember some of those key points. And it's like, okay, shoot, I remember this. Man, I'm not sure what else, but at least they're thinking and they go, hey, I could probably call this guy though.
Yeah.
And he can help me through it.
Yeah.
Even if he can't directly help me, he'll at least get me on the right track and point me in the direction. And the same thing goes with obtaining a contractor and things like that. I'm not knocking any of the people that there's a lot of companies that do all the door knocking and things like that. A lot of people are straying away from that because it is a different time and day, right? Like people are just not as receptive to answering their door.
I don't answer the door. Right? If I don't know you,
I knocked for 30 minutes, guys, when I was here, and he was just like looking at his people, and I had to give him a password. It was weird.
Yeah. But yeah, dude, I don't answer the door if I'm not expecting you.
Right.
Dude, don't come to my door and try to sell me freaking solar panels.
Oh God,
dude.
That's a whole different, that's another story for another day. But essentially that's what we do. And that's where I'm trying to be the change for as many people as I can. And that's why this meeting that I had earlier today, I mean, it was a rock star meeting. It was solid. That's why it went so well, because he hears and sees the passion that I have on this side of the industry now. And it absolutely helps that I have background already coming from the industry. So I can talk the talk, I can walk the walk with these guys. I'm not just, oh, it's numbers and it's this and that, and this is all that's important. It's all the whole spectrum of everything in this industry is important to me. And ultimately what it boils down to is I like to see contractors that are doing things the right way, i.e., collecting deductibles, you know what I mean? Like we talked about yesterday. If you're weak and you're just trying to do it without the deductible and you're cutting corners and undercutting on costs, then maybe find a different profession to be in.
So explain,
and I'm just saying that politely.
Explain so like some roofers will illegally say like, oh, we'll pay your deductible, right, or they structure it a certain way. Can you kind of explain that a little bit?
So some of them are just blunt. And it's because that's the way some of these guys are trained. You know what I mean? They'll literally, like, let's say there's a storm that happens in your neighborhood. You'll start seeing yard signs pop up and everything. And typically in the industry, that is kind of like, hey, that's letting the guys know that are out still knocking and doing their thing. That's letting them know, like, these people are either signed up or they're working with somebody or whatever it may be.
Oh, yeah, I've seen those.
Also, the same time, that will give these guys that operate differently, that will give them, that's the ones that they look for. They'll go to the ones with the signs out and knock those doors and try to snake some weird, shady deal in. And unfortunately, you've got enough people that are good at talking, and some of those people fall victim to that. Mm-hmm. That was never going to be me. You know what I mean? I'm not willing to give up profit for what I'm good at. You know what I mean? If I'm an expert in this, I don't want to say expert because I'm not an expert. I've never considered myself an expert in anything,
You're
but
an
if you're a
enthusiast.
professional, yeah, definitely enthusiast. But if you're a professional in your industry, right, and your goals and your values are to the extent where you want to abide by the rules, you want to do things the right way, and you want to help people understand why it's important to do them the right way, then let's jump on board. You know what I mean? But what will happen is those guys will come in and, like I said, they'll just be kind of snaky. And the next thing you know, you're trying to call your customer, and they weren't your customer anymore. And they're like, oh, well, this guy said, and I'm like, oh, you mean the felony that y'all are committing? Mm-hmm. Okay, that's fine. And when they cut corners, or they use different materials, or something goes wrong and you can no longer get a hold of them, because let's say, there's a high percentage of roofing companies, just roofing alone, roofing companies that don't make it past the 2-year point. And there's another high percentage of ones that don't make it past year 5. So what happens is they all see this money rolling in, and they don't take into consideration what happens when we don't have storms.
Yeah.
Right. Houston area, we have a lot of wild weather. I mean, there's some stuff brewing out there right as we speak. But what happens when you don't have those hurricanes and those major hailstorms or tornadoes? So then you've got to get creative, right? You've either got to expand what you do. And that's why you have a lot of roofing and construction, roofing and restoration. And that's ideal, so that you can keep a good team on board, right? And you don't have guys that end up getting hungry, and you're trying to figure out ways to keep them fed. Mm-hmm. That's where people start getting kind of desperate. And that's where you start seeing like some of the failures and flaws and things really shine through. But yeah, that's a big thing to watch for. There's a lot of people that don't care. They don't care what the potential repercussions are if they get, caught up in this situation of not paying their deductible, things like that.
They're like felons anyway, so they just don't care.
Dude, you'd be surprised. There's like some straight up people that I thought, like, over the years that that I know well, that have told me, they're like, well, hey, this guy's going to do it for this. And I'm like, first of all, if he gave you an estimate, y'all don't even know the extent of what the damage is. And do you have interior? Is there collateral? I mean, I've seen where AC systems get replaced, windows are blown out. You get siding covered, fencing at time. Like, there's all kind of things to add into the claim. And that's always my goal, is to help educate them. Hey, it may have been a hailstorm, but it's not just your roof that's potentially affected. It's from the roof to the slab. You got to look at everything and do a thorough inspection, because what justice have I done trying to help somebody if all I did was like, oh yeah, in and out, I'm worried about the roof, I don't care about your other shit.
It's home insurance, not roof insurance.
Exactly. Yeah. Right. So like I said, what justice have I done? What service have I truly provided to them? If I came in, just did the roof, and a lot of people are like that. They just want the roof because it's the best. It's the biggest portion of the claim typically. And essentially it is the easiest in a roundabout way. But I don't feel good at the end of the day about that, because so I replace your roof, and then you hear about something from your neighbor 6 months later who was like, man, I got some windows taken care of. I didn't even know they were broken. My siding that, I had hardy siding. It was painted. It was like blasted with a BB gun is what it looked like, kind of thing. Got that covered, got it painted, all this stuff. And then if you were the guy that dealt with somebody that didn't do all those steps for you, you're sitting there going, okay, I think I just got the shitty end of the deal on that. You know what I mean? And then you go try to find these people. And if you can get them on the phone, a lot of times they're like, oh yeah, sorry, nothing we can do for
We're already closed out.
Right. Like, they don't even make the effort.
Sorry, we went back to Louisiana
or wherever they came from. And I'm not ever knocking people that travel for storms. You have to have that. I've explained this to people till I was blue in the face. You simply cannot have only your local people handle a big loss situation like that, a catastrophic event. Even the tornado in Deer Park, you know what I mean? I talked to so many people, and they were like, yeah, there's people flying all over the place, and and I'm like, yes, you're going to run into some shady folks anytime there's a storm. Like, there's not really a way to eliminate that. Requiring licensing for roofing in the state of Texas, that's a great start. I'm all for that. That will help weed out some of these.
You don't have to be licensed as of now.
No.
That's wild.
It's unreal to me.
That's crazy. Yeah. I did not know that. Wow.
Yeah, it's a wild deal. So that would be a good start, in my opinion. That would help out a lot. But tying it back, like explaining to these people let's just say Deer Park. Let's just use this as an example. And these aren't going to be literal numbers. These are just easy numbers as an idea. Let's say there's 20 contractors, 20 roofing contractors in the Deer Park area, greater Deer Park area. Let's say that. If 4,000 homes were directly affected by some kind of a major issue,
right?
I don't think people truly understand, if they only use those 20 people, how long it would take for their repairs to get done. Because you're all sourcing from the same material places, right? The same yards, all that stuff. You're all coming from the same ones. So what happens when the other storms happen in other parts of the nation? You know what I mean? And there's limited materials, or there's always things that can go wrong in anything that you're doing. So helping people understand that kind of brings some of them down off the ledge a little bit. And I say, you've got this right here. You've got a computer. Most people have a computer. At the very least, you've got a phone. Nowadays, getting yourself into a sticky situation should not be as common as it is, right? No matter what service or trade or whatever you're doing, like, I still look up restaurants sometimes. You know what I mean? If it's not the ones that I'm familiar with or going to, like, I kind of look in and go, okay, they've got some decent reviews or whatever. You got to do your homework a little bit.
You read the menu.
And
I do that all the time.
Right. Ignorance in today's day and time, for the most part, is a lot of it's avoidable. Like, because you have everything at your fingertips. Right. You have so much at your fingertips, right? And even if you're not familiar or savvy with, like, the internet and your phone and whatever it is, pick it up and call somebody you know. Like, start asking questions. Don't just allow it to happen and then go, oh, woe is me, Yeah,
that's one of the things I've loved about doing what I do, because I have a contact for darn near anything you could need.
Right.
So, like, if I have a roofing question, I could call you or any of my other roofer buddies. If I have like a construction question, I have my buddy Grayson does. You probably know Grayson. Yeah. Does construction.
We just talked the other day.
Yeah.
I was just checking on him, seeing how he's doing.
Awesome to be able to just call someone that does this every day. It's like invaluable, dude.
Well, and then, so not only having that tool in your tool belt or your bag, but at the same time, you're keeping those connections, right? So to me, and I left another meeting after my lunch meeting with a guy that I've known for probably 15 years. We've worked together. He works for Steam Commander. So essentially they started off as, a floor, they do cleanings for carpet, tile, commercial, residential. They do all that. But he's really knowledgeable on the restoration side. So like water losses, things like that. So he is helping them grow that. And, because he was right down the road from where I just popped in, and it's like, we had that same conversation. He was talking about a chiropractor, and he's like, this guy would have to have some unreasonable prices come up before I ever decided to just leave, because now we've built a friendship. We've got rapport. That guy wants to start using him as his contract. Like, but that's the way it should work.
Yep.
And it was so much different. It was very different back in the day before you had all the social media stuff now. Like, it's a curse and a blessing, right? It's a curse and a blessing because everything is right there in front of you, right? So in your head, you're like, man, 2,000 people, like, these are all my friends. No, they're not.
Yeah.
They're not your friends.
Yeah.
Y'all may follow each other and keep up, but we talked about this the other day. There's no worse feeling than being in an industry that you think, man, I know so many people, I'm going to kill it. I'm going to be extremely successful. And then as soon as you start, you're like, oh, they bought a car from them, or they bought a house, or they use this guy for the roof or whatever. And then you've got to bring yourself back to reality and be like, we're not in each other's everyday circle or everyday life.
That's exactly right.
So you've got to stay relevant, right? And you've got to, and that's hard to do. It seems easy because it's like, oh, you can touch all these people. That's a weird way to say that. You can get in front of, a lot of people at once, essentially, by having the ability to do little videos or things like we're doing. But at the same time, you can count on your core group, right? Mm-hmm. Like, I've got a solid core group of people that we do we do a lot of big music festivals and stuff like that. And we could chat about that in a second if you want, but, your core group, is those are the ones you can count on. Right. And even family, just because your family doesn't always mean anything. Mm-hmm. And at times you want to take that personal, right? You want to be like, dang, I guess it's different if you're like, dang dad.
Yeah.
Like, bro, you use somebody else, you know, but you know what I mean by that. Like, but even immediate family, if you're not just completely tied together, you can't be that upset at the end of the day when you're like, okay, we haven't talked in a year and a half, but why'd you use this guy? Well, you just said it in that first answer.
Dude, so when I got licensed in, I think I passed my real estate exam in October of 2016.
Yeah.
So this was summer of 2017. I was like 6 months in. I've done probably 8, 9, 10 deals by then. And I had 2 roommates. And one of them was planning on moving out and buying a house. And I'm an agent. You live with me, right? So he's telling me like, yeah, I'm probably going to buy a house soon and I'll be moving out. And I was ready to not have roommates anymore anyway. So he's like, yeah, probably going to be looking in LaPorte, this and that. And we were just having like a conversation in the living room. And I was like, all right, well, let me know when you're ready to start looking. Just kind of assuming.
Right.
Actually, I think I'm going to use my mom's friend. My mom like set it up and everything. So I was like,
just forget the fact that we live together.
Bro, I couldn't believe it. But looking back, like now, I don't let that get under my skin whatsoever. Yeah. Like it's going to happen. So how you react to it is the only thing you can control.
Right.
Yeah. So, and you know, if you're doing enough business, I don't want to say you can afford to lose some, but I should be pushing every day to have enough business where I don't have to worry about missing a deal here and there.
Right. Right. And I agree. I mean, it's just the nature of the beast. You know what I mean? The goal is always to do as much as you can, as efficiently as you can, effectively as you can. And for me and you, I mean, we're both in a position in an industry of we're here to help people.
It's a people business, period.
You know what I mean? Like I'm obviously very much a people person. I have no problem talking. That's why you cut me off, 20 minutes into my conversation.
Well, I didn't want us to get all this information out and not like, I was like, dude, we just did it. Literally, we just did a podcast on the phone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Every day I'm like that. You know what I mean? So the meeting I had with this guy earlier, I left him with something when we met up at the IRE, that roofing expo. And as you can tell, I'm vibrant, I'm animated, but that's my personality. And that's what allows me to get in so close so quickly with people and all, because like they see this is real, but you can't get this in a text.
No.
Right.
You
cannot get this in a text. And Ty, he looked at me and he was just like, dang.
Mm-hmm. People love authenticity.
I've never heard that. And I was like, yeah, but you can't. So me trying to do what I do and build rapport from nothing is very difficult via email. You can't understand somebody's tone or know if they're joking, or like maybe you want to slide a joke in because it's funny. Hard to do that on email.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But even on the phone without meeting somebody first, like we're not back in the 80s where everything was done via the phone, you know what I mean? Or letters. So that's, my focus is, that's what I'm a relationship builder. That's what I'm good at. That's how I'm going to help this industry, is connect the right people with the right people. Broker, if you like, that's to help people understand that
you're
a different term. Right.
Yeah.
And that's where I'm at, is going and helping roofing contractors, the owners of the company, the owners of restoration companies, public adjusters, helping them bridge that gap between lost deals and settlements that are awarded, to help the clients, to help their people essentially. So not only now do I get to help a policyholder like I was doing, but I was having to go after each individual one, right?
Yeah.
Now I can help those people and help the contractor as well, and help the public adjuster, because a public adjuster has, more tools in their bag than a contractor, but they don't have near as many as what an attorney does. An attorney can go and fight for their attorney fees. They can fight for penalty interest charges, things like that at times. There's a few other things, as far as just like the basic stuff, but they can go and fight for that stuff. So whereas a PA can maximize a claim, you know what I mean, and make sure nothing gets left out, which I'm not diminishing what they do by any means. We need them as well. But when it gets to a point where their hands are kind of tied, like, who do you call? Call us.
So what is a public adjuster?
So a public adjuster is basically a licensed person that can legally discuss policy. So like policy, put it into different terms. So if you're a homeowner, the homeowner always has people listen. You as the homeowner, if you're in a situation where you have a property loss or it's your business, whatever it is, you have all the power. You just have to know how to use it. Mm-hmm. Public adjusters are licensed. So I'll jump around. Contractors they are having to learn more nowadays just to try to help these homeowners and business owners without having to bring other people in, because that's the name of the game. You know what I mean? If you can do something on your own, you feel way more accomplished at the end of the day. But you have to be okay with understanding when you need to bring somebody else in to help. We can't always all do everything on our own. That's what a team is for. You know what I mean? That's why I've got a great team. Sometimes people ask me questions on, whatever it may be. And I'm like, hey, I don't have the answer for that, but I can find it. Well, why don't you know that? I'm like, because I'm good at bringing people together.
Teamwork is dream work, baby.
That's where my focus is, right? Mm-hmm. I have other people on our team that are really good at this. They're really good at that. They're really good at this. So let's let that work as a team and make it make sense. I don't have to know everything. You don't have to know everything. There's no reason why we should beat ourselves up over that. A lot of people do. But the goal is just having a solid network and a solid team that you can rely on, and, having the same kind of morals, values, and things like that, where it always makes sense. And at the end of the day, you're not questioning, man, did I send the right person over there? I hope I don't hear some horror story. It's never a perfect world, but we can shoot for one,
Yeah. So rather than one blade of a pocket knife, y'all are a Swiss Army knife.
Fact.
Yeah,
absolutely.
There's a saying, I think it was like an African proverb. I think it says, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together.
Yeah, but it makes sense.
That's
right?
real, right?
I love that. That is solid. I might get that as my first tattoo.
Yeah.
Maybe like right here on my neck. Mm-hmm. No regrets.
No regrets.
No, not even one letter. Yeah, man. So, I've got just kind of to jump around on some of this stuff. So, my son, he's 8 now. He's into baseball. Right. Crazy. I would say like he caused all this gray hair, but I mean, I started getting it at like 17 in high school. So
damn, dude, I'm starting to get a little pepper right here.
Yeah. But I mean, I love it. It works for me.
Silver fox,
we're going to act like you didn't call me that, but I mean, hey, it's fine. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, no, it's a wonderful thing, man. Like I love fatherhood. It's great. But I've done, I've been in the oil field. I've been in this industry for a while now, and seeing the times and parts where I had to travel, like I needed to do that just for the experience, right? Because that's what it's about. Life's about experiences. If you just sit on your couch every day and you're not trying to do much, like that's fine, but I'm not going to do that with you.
A lot of people do that, man. A lot of people are born in a town. They stay there. They work there. They retire there. They die there.
Yeah. And it makes for a cool story and a good country song, but dang, bud, I'm trying to do some other things, Yeah. And that's why I'm really glad, to team up with this firm. It's a very different side of the industry. One that I definitely wanted to learn more about and educate myself on. That way I could educate more people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I don't have to go where these storms are. You know what I mean? I don't have to go, oh, well, shoot, it's been slow in Houston. What am I going to do? Only so many people have the funds and are ready, especially in today's economy, to replace their fence or do an add-on or remodel. Like, I've worked with people that would do those things. We offered those services, but they're not just lining up every day. You know, there are companies that focus just on remodeling and they do phenomenal. But they've also been in business for a long time and that's what they're known for. Yeah. Right. So when you're known as a company in a specified kind of area, then you tend to see more growth in that area. You get a lot of people that are looking for that specific thing. So when you're somebody that's, you know, trying to broaden your abilities and what you can do and who you can do them for, it takes a little longer, obviously, to build that and to get people to come to you. Right. So that's why I do this, and we can help people nationwide, and I don't have to leave, and I can be there for my kid and be at as many baseball games and things as I can and all that. So
I've always thought, as a roofer, like say there is no storm for like a couple years, Houston is such I feel like it's really developed starting. I mean, dude, there's some old houses here, from the 1800s. Yeah. But like just in this immediate area, there's homes built from 1930, 1940 to brand new. So you have homes and developments of all different ages, old and new. Yeah. So what I would do, and you tell me if this is a legit tactic for a roofer, I would go into those neighborhoods that I know the houses were built about 25 years ago. Mm-hmm. Because those people love to stretch out that lifespan of a roof as long as they can.
Oh, absolutely.
Because I used to live in a neighborhood like that. I used to live off of Fairmont and Space Center and Fairmont Estates, all the country streets. Like I lived on Ireland, France, Nations, all that. Yep. Those, I think that house was built in 1991. So when I bought it, they had just had the roof replaced. Okay. So, but dude, there was a couple houses that it looked like it was Christmas time on top of that roof. You know what I'm talking about?
All the fiberglass showing through the matting.
Yeah. So I'm like, man, if I'm a roofer, I go knock on their door and be like, hey, just wanted to let you know, like your roof is.
So you make a good point there, and there's a lot more of these, let's just speak on Houston area companies that are focusing and transitioning to more of the retail side.
Retail.
So just going, like if you don't have storm related damage where you can't do something through your insurance company, if you're buying a roof, that's considered retail at that point. So, but you've got to, the marketing and stuff for that is by far a little bit different, right? And then you have to, a lot of people, it's finding the right options for those clients that you're trying to bring in. So like we talked the other day, most people don't have the money to pay out of pocket to replace their roof if they need to. So how do you help them with that? You've got to find financing, stuff that they can, stuff that's actually gonna, not bury them in a hole too. Yeah. So a lot of companies are kind of shifting and transitioning to the retail side. They're not knocking out the storm parts, but they're figuring out ways to make the retail side more successful. And that's what I like to see, because there are parts of Houston, just speaking on Houston alone, there are parts that they're just not known to get hail, or the high winds are just sporadic here and there. So if you're in one of those areas, we've got to do what we can in this industry as professionals to find ways to help you, because in turn that helps our business, right? But helping those people, to me, is just as important as helping somebody that had a loss from a storm. It's just a different side, right? So just because their roof is 25 years old, and if any of y'all have 25-year-old roof, do something about it, please.
Oh, but this roof's guaranteed. It's a 50-year roof.
Oh, bud, I've been up there so many times. I promise you I'd be all right. I'm like, Okay, so all that white stuff, what's that from?
Dude, so many houses get marketed, and literally in the description it would be like 40-year roof, 50-year roof. It's like, bro, not in Houston.
No.
I don't know where.
Those shingles do exist. There are designer shingles. There are 40-year shingles. There's a lot of phenomenal products out there on the market. But Houston, I'm not going to sit here and say that has a ton of those. Like, you have certain areas, some really nice neighborhoods that have, metal roofs, standing seam. They may have Spanish tiles, synthetic tiles like Da Vinci, things like that. But you're looking at some big money, you know what I mean? And not just your average house can withstand the weight of a lot of that stuff.
I was going to say tile roofs are heavy, huh?
Very heavy. So you're not just throwing tile on just anything. So there's a market for the retail side too. But to tie back to what you're saying, yes, I would do that stuff too. I would go into, older areas. I'd find out, and this is just based on storm stuff, but I would find areas, I'd go on Google Maps, do the satellite imaging and kind of zoom in. And then you want to pick and choose, who you want to work with. And there's nothing wrong with that. But I would find some of these older neighborhoods at times, because those are the people that are like, if I can't help them soon on this side of it and help them with their insurance, then they're probably going to have to pay out of pocket to replace their roof at some point. Or they're going to end up being one of those people that takes, 15 Band-Aids and keeps putting them on the same spot. And then over the course of however many years, did you really save yourself money or did you cost yourself more money? Like, if there would have been an option for you to finance, because I'm not saying everybody's got, thousands of dollars laying around to just toss to their house, even though a home is generally, this better than I do, generally the biggest investment that most people make.
Yes. And if you're ever going to sell that investment and your prospective buyer sees, like the listing I just put up in Village Grove, I listed it late February. First thing I put in that description, brand new roof, February 2023.
Yeah.
Bro, that's such a relief to people. And they know they're not going to have to deal with it for another 20 years.
Right. And so, and that's a great point, because a lot more people are starting to be aware of roofs just because of what's happening with roofing companies and storm restoration companies and the marketing that's going on. It's like, used to, if you weren't in the industry, you were like, roofing.
Nobody noticed.
What is that? Like,
I noticed, dude, because there's a section of my neighborhood over here that the houses were built in like 01, 02, 03. So it's getting to where some of them are getting new roofs, and you'll see one with a chalk, like 22-year-old roof, and then a brand new roof next to it. And I love a brand new roof, man. It looks so fresh.
It just looks good. But I always used, like you were just saying, I would always use that as a point of, I guess you could call it a selling point, but I would use that. I'm like, hey, because run into an area and they're like, well, I don't care, I'm selling my house soon. I'm like, it's perfect. Let me help you understand why. And as long as you're throwing stuff at people in a way that seems like you're trying to educate and help them and inform them, they're going to be a lot more receptive and taking what you say in, versus you trying to hammer it down their throat or lead with intimidation or something like that, or like high pressure, anything. Like, I'm out on that, man. I'm just not that guy. So helping them understand, going, okay, pay your deductible. Sure, it's going to initially, you're going to fork out a little bit of money initially right now, but let's say we could get that replaced at the cost of whatever your deductible is. Let's say you have a decent deductible. Nowadays, a decent deductible is, there's still a few 1,500, out there, but let's say, a larger size home, let's say you've got, a $3,000 or $4,000 deductible. Well, if that's at 1%, you're almost at a $500,000 home. You know what I mean? That's not included. Let's just say you got a few acres. Like, okay, we'll tack up the price.
And that's small enough of a number to add that. Just add it onto the sales price you were going to do.
Exactly.
And it'll sell quicker.
It will sell a lot faster.
That's a conversation I have. Those people were like, should we do the new roof? And I said, well, if you can get it done for a reasonable price, think of it this way. Y'all want to get onto your next place. You don't want to sit here and hold this thing in hand for 30, 40, God forbid, 50 days on market.
Right.
And then get it under contract finally. And then the buyer's like, oh, the roof needs to be replaced.
Yeah.
And then you got to do it anyway.
Right.
It's like, dude, just take care of it up front. And they did, dude. It was the best move they made as far as listing that house went.
And I would see also kind of relatable to that is I would see people that get their roof done, but then they would just be like, they'd tell the contractor, just put the cheapest thing up there. I don't care. I'm leaving anyway. Don't be that guy.
Oh,
you know what I mean?
Man.
It will come back and bite you. At some point, it's going to bite you in the ass. What is that? What was that in Forrest Gump? Something bit, mate.
Something bit.
It's going to come back and bite you.
Yeah.
Also, just be a better person, you know? Like that's what we need more of that in this world. We need better people. So leaving it for the next person as a problem,
yeah,
not ideal.
Have you ever heard of roofers using shingles? Okay, so like, say you have a shingle company and they just store their shingles in a warehouse, and you get some that are just stuck in the back of a warehouse for like 4, 5, 6 years, and then they take them out and put them on a roof. Mm-hmm. Have you heard of that happening?
I've seen it. I dealt with it firsthand. Man, it was a bad deal. There was a crew, excuse me. There was a crew that, man, we had used several times, and this was a large house. They were on one side of it. I ran to town. Ideally, you should be able to, with grown men, grown women too. I mean, there were women on some of these crews. So no judgment there. Like everybody works hard.
Equality.
Right. So to have grown adults and you feel like you've got to babysit them, that's a very stressful situation, right? Yep. On top of an already stressful situation, like there's a whole construction site going on here, and you're worried about a lot of things. Like a number of things can go wrong. They didn't tear everything off one part of this roof initially, and we're just trying to put new material over it. And so I got back and I was like, come here. What are you doing? Fix all that, and it's now your problem. I hope you have the material and the money to fix it, because you're fixing it. You know how we operate. This is not what we do. Why would you do that? Oh, look, honestly, whatever excuse you give me right now is not going to matter.
Yeah.
Fix it. So that was on a Friday evening. All the supply places were closed on Saturday.
Of course.
So, but they assure me that they've got it figured out, right? I'm like, okay. So they had a guy come from wherever, brought stuff in a truck, and it was from like overflow of stuff that they've had from other jobs, just laying in a yard somewhere, probably not even covered.
Oh man.
Just laying there. So for one, I get there and the bundles were like not even neatly stacked in the driveway. It's like you just had like Hulk Hogan just back there, just like, yeah, chunking stuff. So there was just stuff everywhere. I'm like, wow, this is embarrassing, at a customer's house. Not only that, so you have different manufacturing facilities across the United States for different brands of shingles. And then you have different lot numbers for all the like there's a bunch of key factors there. So just because it's CertainTeed Moray Black or a GAF, weathered wood or whatever it is, if it's made from a plant in this state, it's not necessarily going to match, and you won't notice it until it's on the roof. Mm. And once it's up there and you step back, you're like, ooh, what is that? Mm-hmm. Why does it look like that?
And patch jobs look like that. And they never match. You never get a match.
You can't truly match them. So yeah, I've unfortunately been in that situation. I was like, no, you got to rip that off too. Like, what are you doing? All of this was avoidable. Just follow the protocol. Follow how we do it.
It's part of human nature. A lot of people can't help it. They just want to get to that dollar as quickly and easily as possible, as they think they're doing as possible.
Yeah.
Rather than just taking the time, slow down, do it right. And that's sad. So,
yeah, it really is. And that ties to some other stuff that I'm involved in. So like I was saying earlier, so I've got a good friend of mine, Charlie Diggs, who puts on these big music festivals, right? He's been in the entertainment industry for, many years. That's where we met. I've got a lot of music friends that you know, in the last probably 12 years or so, I've had some really great ones. I'm not going to sit here and rattle them all off and try to clout or anything, but some of them are pretty cool people. You know what I mean? But we throw these big music festivals, and that's been some of our conversations in our meetings lately, is bringing this together and continuing to build it as a business, right? Because it is fun. It's a shitload of work. It's a lot of work. But the reward at the end of the day, to sit back and look at thousands of people that we have all collectively brought in, and they're dancing with their families, they're singing, they're out having fun, and like people are just smiling. You know what I mean? Like that's so rewarding at the end of the day. But to keep that in that positive mindset and keep things effectively growing and getting better, you've got to focus on certain things, and sticking with a business plan, sticking with an idea, especially one that works. You got to roll with it, and there's growth that happens with that, and growth makes a lot of people uncomfortable, right? You've seen that. And that's okay.
Uncomfortable.
But when you're uncomfortable, that means you're learning something or you're growing, right? And you've got to have that. So growth is important. But yeah, we do these big festivals, like the one that's coming up March 25th in Montgomery. It's Montgomery Music and Mudbugs. So last year, I think we had like between 4,000 and 5,000 people.
Wow.
So we should exceed that this year. You know, that's coming up in a couple of weeks. We got like Mark Chestnut headlining. Randall King will be there. Wayne Toops, Jason Cassidy, War Hippies, Jeff Canada. I think last year we had like 90 vendors.
Damn.
So like it's creating an opportunity for so many people, right? So some of these vendors, like I love seeing, Charlie will always do at the end of each of these festivals. We just did Stephenville, Buckles and Bugs, Giovanni and the Hired Guns. If you've ever heard of them, they're starting to play them a lot more on like 94.5, stuff like that now. They were the headliner there, which was phenomenal. They're from Stephenville. But at the end of every event, he always does a big post. Like once we're settled and cleaned up and everything's torn down, within the next couple days when the dust settles, he always writes this like really long, thank you post or whatever. I've had people that, like, we had one event that we had people that came in from Ireland.
Whoa.
Because of one of the artists that was there. And we literally got to make their entire trip. Like we brought them to VIP. We let them I told them,
they partied, right?
Yeah. Charlie was busy somewhere, and I found them in the crowd. I grabbed them and I was like, hey, come here. And they were like, no, it's okay. I'm like, you get in here and have as much fun as you can right now. Like we appreciate, that's such a cool feeling. And then at the end of the day, like they don't even know how to comprehend what they've got to experience. And they're sending me letters in the next week, like from Ireland.
Yeah. They come to
thank you.
Yeah. They come to Texas with an expectation.
Right. And we delivered.
Hell yeah.
You know what I mean? But that's such a good feeling. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And that's why, like, I love this industry that I'm in. So bringing people back to whole, you know what I mean? And then also getting to do things like this with a great team that I've got. I do with a buddy of mine, Ryan Brenner, we do all the cooking for all the VIP, all the artists, all the staff for all these events now. So it started off as just over the years, just Charlie and I have been really good friends, and I would help him. I'm just like, I'm that guy that what do you need help with? I know you got this event, and I would always, like, whether it's setting this up or pulling trailers or whatever we may be doing. And that's converted now into, I still get to do all this stuff and have fun, and we make money doing what we're doing. You know what I mean? But we cook, like, this event that we're expecting, like, cooking over 400 people. That's, to some people
that's a lot of work, dude.
To some people that cater for a living, they're like, oh, that's a cakewalk. Yeah, good for you. You know what I mean? Like, you also have a commercial kitchen probably, or like some kind of a restaurant to base your operation out of. We do this stuff out in the middle of the field.
Dude, like the Pasadena Rodeo Cook-Off, I know some people that are, they get the tents and they work up there, and by the end of it, dude, they're beat because
I've done it with my brother, Corey.
Yes.
It's exhausting.
Yeah.
It is so much work like to the tune of, and since you brought that up, like a couple of years ago, I was just passing through down here, right? So I live in Conroe, and I was passing through. So I was like, well, let me pop my head in the fairgrounds, check on my brother, see how things are going. And I get over there.
He was flustered, right?
Son, it was aggressive. So I'm like, all right, look, I canceled my plans. I'm here, bud. What do you need help with?
Yeah.
So I jump on the pit, and I'm just like, here, let me cook for for the party that's in the tent. Y'all got the competition stuff going. Y'all focus on the people out there. I'll burn some time. I'll do all this cooking. And then when I'm done cooking, I'll come down and hang out and we'll party with everybody. It's a lot.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work. But again, it's rewarding enough for me to put myself through the vigorous stuff that it takes to put these things on.
It's probably one of those things where it sucks while you're doing it, but when you look back on it, you're like, oh, that was fun.
Man, it's always worth it to me. You know,
Yeah.
I mean? Like there's not been a single time where I look back and I'm like,
shouldn't have done that.
No, that one wasn't worth it.
Yeah.
Any kid that's smiling, any family that's, boasting and they're smiling, hugging, kissing, taking pictures with each other. People meet each other at these events, and like, who knows what all kind of good experiences happen out there. You got thousands of people. We're not talking about a venue holding 200 folks. Like those are cool too, because they're intimate and I love those. But to do this and be a part of something directly like that just does so much for a communities. We're always giving back to charities and foundations. Like it's just rewarding, man. I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, dude. That was an hour.
That was an hour?
That was an hour.
Dude, I'm just getting started. I might be on episode 30, 40, 50.
Is there anything else you want to talk about?
Man, honestly, I could go for days. I have no problems with like just popping back in every now and then and jumping on one of these with you. And if I go for too long, bro, I'll put you to sleep. I'll put that bottle of tequila to sleep. Like the walls will fall off in here. They'll just be like, no, I'm out.
Yeah. We'll save it for a couple more episodes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Cool, man. Well, thanks for coming. I know you drove quite a ways to be here. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
And I hope it was fun.
Enjoyed every bit of it
for me. So thank you everybody for watching. We will talk to you later.